Welcome to the real deal.
When we talk about things that make you go,
outdated look, nothing is up. Only thing they got, bet they stole it from us. This the real deal. Wanna watch the real deal? You just need a real bill, not some old belief with no.
I'm the Sue Kefre.
I'm the Shamsi Consul Sahure, and today's topic is plea bargain.
But before we talk about plea bargains, let's first talk about the game.
Oh shit. What game you talking about, Caffrey?
You know, when we playing basketball, we play that on a basketball
court. Nice though, you know?
When we playing tennis, we also play that on a tennis
court as well, yeah. Okay.
Now, we in a court setting, right? That's also another place where games are played.
You mean like a courtroom?
Exactly.
Nah, we ain't trying to play that game. Not at all.
The U.S. has the world's largest prison population. According to the U.S. Bureau of Justice Statistics, there are more than 2 million people currently incarcerated. Of the 2 million in prison, more than 95% accepted the plea bargain.
Round back. This is Nasut Sakemi. We're going to touch up on plea bargains just a little bit. Something I want y'all to really understand this. When you touch up on plea bargains, it's a very, very controversial subject. Why? Why? Because what? For one, your constitutional rights are compromised totally. When you enter into a plea bargain, the defendant agrees to waive their whole entire Sixth Amendment rights. Check this out. Look it up yourself. This includes what? A right to a trial by jury, a right to not self-incriminate, the right to know who your accusers are, and the nature of the charges, plus all the evidence surrounding that. Point 2. Guilty people get off easy. Just think about it. The justice system bargains with criminals. For example, if you commit a crime and the prosecution has all the evidence beyond a shadow of a doubt that you committed that crime, what do? They take you to a back room, you cut a deal that undermines the entire integrity of their system, the injustice system as some will have it. Which means that the judge and the prosecution are really working together like this, and they're willing to overlook the crime. When in fact, if you committed a crime, you should be tried and sentenced, but instead, they're given a slap on the wrist.
But think about it. The only one that really got a cuff slapped on the wrist is the innocent people who plead guilty. Now, while pleading guilty to a crime one is innocent of may sound strange, it often happens to secure a conviction. It's called a false guilty plea. Let's not let that word slip. False guilty plea. A false guilty plea is when an innocent defendant is forced to plead guilty by using all sorts of fear tactics such as intimidation, torture, threat, and false evidence ploys.
This is not a speculation. This is a proven fact, and the Innocence Project has provided part of the proof of the more than 300 people who the Innocence Project has shown were factually innocent and whose convictions, often of the most serious crimes, were shown to be erroneous and led to their exoneration. Of those, approximately 10% had actually pled guilty to things like homicide, pled guilty to things like rape, even though they had not committed those crimes.
Case in point, United States of America versus Dwight D. York, which is really a misnomer, for his legal name is Malachi York. This is by far the most corrupt case in U.S. history that's being constantly overlooked because of false allegations like child molestation. Come on, when you link an adult's name to child molestation, no one wants to hear your side of the story because children are always right?
Wrong. In fact, there were no children involved in the court proceeding, only disgruntled adults who may have been molested, but definitely not by Dr. York. Definitely not. Like, really? Come on, people. Read the sealed transcripts. Read them. Don't let these clowns tell you any different. Read the sealed transcripts. Although sealed, they're circulating right now. There was no medical evidence. There was no video surveillance that put Dr. York in any compromising situation. There was only he said, she said, backbiting and slandering by black and white devils, which is merely gossip. And I know there are many videos out there circulating with people lying and crying, but really, come on. We've all watched movies before, right? We know that they're actors. So as a matter of fact, we might as well just give them an Oscar. Because we know in order to be a good actor, you gotta be a good liar.
Now, back to the plea bargain. There's a video that has been leaked by government officials in order to character assassinate Dr. York. And they have been very successful, unfortunately, in planting the seeds, these negative seeds in the minds of the masses. And it's about time that we set the record straight.
From Dr. York's initial appearance in court, he professed his innocence. And on May 8, 2002, Dr. Malachi York was illegally arrested, and as stated, by their own credential media, because they didn't allow any black media in. They had their own credential media and their newspaper. That very next day, you had a news article titled, "The Wahabian Leader Pleads Not Guilty." Not guilty. As reported in their Macon Telegraph, dated May 9, 2002, by Rob Peacher. Now I direct you to another of their credential media newspaper articles. This one was titled, "York Pleads Innocent in Putnam Case." Innocent. As reported in the Atlanta Journal Constitution, dated October 26, that was in the year 2002, by Bill Osinski. So these newspaper articles confirm beyond a shadow of a doubt that Dr. Malachi York originally pled not guilty.
On January 24, 2003, Dr. York was coerced to admit to the commission of a crime he did not commit, to avoid the possibility of excessive consequences that were off the record. Such consequences have to do with the fact that he had co-defendants, such as his wife, who suffered from MS. So when he was sure that his wife and the other sisters was released and secure, he knew he can fight his case because a false guilty plea is not a confession. The masses who are ignorant to legal verbiage do not know the difference between a false guilty plea and a confession. A confession is evidence, and a false guilty plea, on the other hand, is not evidence. It's a bargain, of which only those who pass the bar actually gains from.
Allow me to play Angel's Advocate for a moment. Wait, hold up, wait a minute. Zamel. But those co-defendants, they weren't locked up at the time. So that deep bill you just gave? Oh, no, wait, Issa. I mean, in fact, his wife was released on bond December 4th, 2002. And then she pled guilty April 1st, 2003. I mean, she faced 2 years in prison plus 5 months, which they didn't even count, and then 18 months of probation.
Actually, 18 years of probation.
Oh, okay, my bad.
And I thought you would say that too. But did you know, in federal proceeding, there's a no contact order. I repeat, no contact order.
I ain't know that.
Placed against co-defendants for at least 2 years. So that means that Dr. York's wife would have had no contact. So how would he know?
I mean, wouldn't his attorney tell him?
Yeah, I thought you'd say that. Dr. York received no communication from the Garland firm, who made it clear from the very beginning that he couldn't even beat the case. After he took $1.5 million from our tribe. He was working with the prosecution the whole time. This is the same man that tried to coerce Dr. York to that false guilty plea under the pretense that the sisters were still locked up. His own lawyer.
Now back to these actors and the false guilty pleas. When you take a plea of guilty, you're sentenced and the case is thought to be over. Unfortunately, many people believe that Dr. York was sentenced to 135 years because of this false guilty plea. The question is, or the question that they should be asking themselves is, if Dr. York was sentenced to 135 years, what was the damn deal? 1,000 years?
For the wise who know, the federal government rejected Dr. York's false guilty plea. The judge, who was apparently working with the prosecution, felt that Dr. York should be given a longer sentence than just 11 years or 11 to 14 years, which equals out to be 135 to 168 months. Go back. What did I just say? 135 months. That sound familiar to you? Where they get the 135 years from? Anyway, just something that makes you go, Dr. York simply reasserted his innocence to the charges when he was arrested on May 8, 2002, since the liars didn't uphold their part of the bargain. To further punish Dr. York for exercising his constitutional rights, he remained jailed until his trial date of January 5, 2004. Then they railroaded him in a kangaroo court system. And I know some people just see that as colloquialisms or some sort of slang. Oh yeah, they railroaded him. Oh, they put him in a kangaroo court. Check this out. Research this, people. For those that don't have a legal background or a legal mind, those are really legal terms. Railroading, kangaroo court system. This is what they did to this innocent man. However, on April 23rd, 2004 AD, he was sentenced to 135 years. That's an excessive sentence for an innocent man for crimes which he was falsely accused.
Besides all of that, we weren't in the court, but the jurors were. And of these jurors, you had 12 jurors, 11 Caucasian, 1 lone elder black female. Does that sound like a jury of Dr. Malachi York's peers? Hell no. 11 Caucasians, 1 elder black female. The 1 elder black female juror, juror number 62, the only juror of Dr. Malachi York's peers, what did she say? According to the transcript, she said she was on a case prior in which a man was found guilty and later proven to be innocent. She also said the man is out to get him. What did these other 11 jurors do? They tried to get rid of her, right? They tried to get rid of her and bring in an alternate or just have her dismissed. Why aren't you made abreast of these facts of Dr. Malachi York's case? He did not have a jury of his peers, and there was a juror who was there throughout the weeks of this trial that said something's not right, he's innocent. The man is out to get him. Those are the facts.
And since we're on the topic of the jury, I would like the public to know that during this trial, there was a hung jury, 11-1, on counts 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and that one person in opposition was none other than juror 62. Don't believe me? Check it out. Now think to yourself, after 15 years, the trial transcripts are still sealed. What do they have to hide? Who wouldn't want integrity and transparency in a criminal justice system? Who wouldn't want innocent defendants to walk freely and guilty defendants to be sentenced appropriately? Who wouldn't want purpose and rationality returned to a system of consequences that has come to reflect little more than blind outrage rather than a societal purposeful resolution? Another thing that I would like to address is the idea that a person cannot speak on Dr. York's case if they were not there. Please, do not allow people to deter you from speaking on the facts of this case. Because if you think about it, the judge was not there, yet they can decide the result of a case. The jurors was not there, yet they can deliberate the fate of a person. The lawyers was not there, yet they are appointed to speak for another in legal matters. Now these are all regular people, just like you and I. So I encourage you to study Dr. York's case and not just be influenced by people who make up and then actually believe stories that never actually happened. I know that we all love Dr. York, but you have to study the case so that your heart and your mind becomes one.
You're not looking for the Messiah, but J. Edgar Hoover was. See, the government of America knows that whenever a people have been oppressed and suppressed and denied basic rights, freedom, justice, and equality, which are the essentials of life, they know that the longer we are deprived, the greater will be the leader that comes to answer that deprivation. So they were watching to see who that leader was. They said, they looked at Kwame Ture, they said, is he the Messiah? They looked at Malcolm, they looked at Martin, they looked at Elijah Muhammad. They were looking for the Messiah. Just like Pharaoh was looking for the birth of a deliverer and said, kill all boy babies. And just like Herod was looking for the Messiah 2,000 years ago and killed all boy babies. See? And they're still scanning you, listening to your talk. They heard Malachi York. They heard a brilliant black brother. They saw him building a compound, a small nation here in Georgia. Is he the Messiah? Trumped up charges. Break up his movement. Put brother in jail. Garvey, Malcolm, Martin, the game is the same always. Watch for the leader who is gaining strength, popularity, power, influence. Then if you can bring him into court, fine. If you can't find a way to trump up charges, find a way to kill him. Find a way to kill him.
As for the so-called conscious people out there,
Be mindful when you accuse people for things you have wrong knowledge of.
it could have been any one of you in the same predicament. Dr. York's case is not an isolated event. If they can get away with this one, they can get away with anything. It proves that those in high principalities are ever at work, and it also proves that the Melanites are still under the spell of the oppressors.
Dr. York is innocent.
Join the fight to free an innocent man before it's too late for us all.
If you tell a lie long enough, people bound to believe. And if you don't seek facts, you're gonna be deceived. Malachi's not a molester, not true. And all who lied, the beast and got you. This a war between good and evil, the sequel. We gon' win again, look Michael, we need you. Soldiers on the ground, the fake people we see through. Since we on the topic, let me give you the review. False guilty plea is not a confession. It's a bargain, type of coercion suppression. But you can't see that when you hate, son. Sunshine laws overveil the snake ones. Plea is garbage. He got a death sentence at trial, 135, and he took in a smile. Knew he would be home in a while, but it gotta hurt being rejected, locked up for a lie. Tell me who's next?
They gave Marcus a felony.
Who's
Locked
next?
down Elijah penitentiary.
Who's
Trumped
next?
up charges on Malachi.
Malachi.
FBI don't wanna see us
Tell me
rise.
who's
They
next?
gave Marcus a felony.
Who's
Locked
next?
down Elijah penitentiary.
Who's
Trumped
next?
up charges on Malachi.
Malachi.
FBI don't wanna see us rise.